So this past June, we celebrated 50 years of Title IX. But here's the deal, we're just coming out of a pandemic. We really haven't had an opportunity to get together. And in June, we're not playing sporting events. So we couldn't do anything in June. We wanted to wait until we started our fall seasons. And boy, have we started our fall seasons, haven't we? Oh yeah, how about that volleyball team? Oh my gosh, who has seen volleyball play this year? Raise your hand. Don't they kick some butt? Man, but they're not the only sport. We've got, do you know that all of our female sports last year went to postseason play? That is incredible. Let's give it up for our sports, our female sports. Okay, I need to settle down because I could just do this all night. But you didn't come here to hear me speak because you always hear me speak. So, we are celebrating 50 years of Title IX. And some people don't truly know what all Title IX covers. Some people think it's just athletics. Some people think it's sexual assault. There's more to it than that, y'all. And on June 23rd, 1972, when Title IX was passed, it opened the door for women in so many different opportunities. In the educational setting, housing is considered one of the areas under Title IX. So is financial aid. So is sexual assault. So is athletics. And I can go down the row. And if you saw the exhibit, you saw about 9 areas that are covered, that Title IX covers. But tonight, we're here to celebrate athletics because that's one of the areas that Title IX covers. And in case you're not aware, when Title IX was passed in 1972, there was about just under 300,000 girls that participated in sports. But since then, as of 2019, there was 3.5 million girls that participated in sports. That is incredible. So I also want to let you know a fun fact, that in 2018, a study conducted by Ernst & Young found that 94% of women who hold the C-suite level positions are former athletes. 94% of women who hold a C-suite level were student athletes. And 52% of them played college sports. That's pretty incredible. Let's hear it. Round of applause, yes. There is an undeniable correlation between athleticism and business success, which is a great transition into why we're here today. I'm going to introduce our moderator, Jenny Lentz Moore, and she's going to introduce the panelists and talk and ask them some questions and let them have conversations. But let me tell you something about Jenny, okay? First of all these panelists are amazing. Jenny was not one, but a 2-sport athlete at Georgia Tech. She ran track and field, and she was a swimmer. She was on the inaugural women's swim team here at Georgia Tech. She got a degree in aerospace engineering. She was a fighter pilot. Yes, she was a fighter pilot. How many of you in this room has seen the very first Top Gun movie? Okay. So you know that female instructor that Tom Cruise had a thing for? She's a lot more professional than that person. This is her. That's amazing. And then get this. Okay, so in 2017, she became the first female F-35 civilian instructor pilot. And in 2019, she was given the opportunity to establish the United States Marine Corps F-35 training program at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. I don't know what that means, but that sounds pretty dang amazing, doesn't it? Holy cow. So you can stop listening to me. I'm going to let Jenny take it over, and she's going to have an awesome conversation with our panelists, and then I'll close it up and let Todd speak, okay? But thanks you all for coming.
All right, thank you so much to Eileen, and thank you to the Georgia Tech Athletic Association for inviting me out here today. I love coming back to campus. I'm honored to be up here on the stage with these amazing women, to have a conversation with them and celebrate all of the positive things that we've seen over the last 50 years since Title IX was passed. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. I'm really excited to learn more about all of you guys tonight. The first one I have right next to me, to my left here, is Diana Schlander. She was the member of the men's swimming and diving team. So we're going to get that story later tonight. We definitely want to hear about that. She was also the very first female letter winner at Georgia Tech. All right? So that is that. Huge honor to have you here tonight. And she was also a majorette in the Yellow Jacket Band.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to ask all the panelists to do a little bit of an icebreaker here. So can you tell us what was your favorite place on campus when you were here?
Okay, how's this? Is it good? Okay. I guess, while I was at Georgia Tech, my favorite place was up in the mountains, going down the Whitewater rivers with the outdoor recreation group that Georgia Tech had. That was my favorite place. It's not on campus. I'd have to say on campus, the Student Center was the best. Yeah.
I liked it because it had Chick-fil-A. That was my favorite part. But Diana, before I let you go, can you tell us what you're doing now?
Okay, so now I'm a retired geophysicist. And so I like to travel, but COVID kind of put a damper on that. But yeah, I just got back from Peru. Let me tell you what a geophysicist, how many people know what a geophysicist is? A few. Okay. Basically, it's like a very complex sonogram, looking at the Earth to see what the substructure is in the stratigraphy. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. Stratigraphy is underneath the Earth. So, yeah, pretty exciting work.
All right, great. Well, really happy to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Our next panelist, Miss Bernadette McGlade. She was the first full-time female head coach at Georgia Tech when she was hired in 1981 to coach the women's basketball team. She also held administrative roles at Georgia Tech, serving as Associate Athletic Director and the first ever Senior Woman Administrator. Overall, she spent 17 years at Georgia Tech before transitioning to the conference level. So great to have you here. And I'm going to ask you the same thing. What favorite place on campus?
Favorite place on campus for me, I have to say Alexander Memorial Coliseum, which none of you know, right? Somebody knows back there. The Thriller Dome. Yeah, the Thriller Dome. Right now, obviously, it's McCamish. So that was my favorite place on campus.
Awesome. And what are you doing now?
I'm currently the commissioner of the Atlantic 10 Conference. We have 15 Division I member institutions. We're a basketball-centric league. And I've been in my current position for 14 years.
Wonderful. Wow. Great to have you. All right, Eileen. We've got Eileen Morales here. She's a 3-time All-ACC, All-Region honoree. She's also an All-American on the softball team. She helped lead Georgia Tech to the 2005 ACC regular season and tournament championships and 4 NCAA tournament appearances. So happy to have you here. I know a lot of familiar faces in the crowd.
Softball squad right there. Yeah. There we go. In the first couple rows. Want to get their bonus points. So good job, guys.
So for you, favorite place on campus when you were a student? It can't be your parking spot now, because I know everybody covets having a parking spot.
I do have a reserved parking spot, thankfully. When I was a student athlete, probably my favorite place would have been the locker room or just the field. The field now is a set of condos, so a little different. Where the field was then, is now condos, but that would be my favorite spot. I think if this building was around, the rooftop would have been my favorite, but we just had the old regular library, so not as much fun for study hall, so yeah.
And what are you doing now? I know most people in the crowd probably know, but...
Yeah, I coach softball here now, so, they just can't get rid of me.
Yeah. Our next panelist we have here, Chrissy Miller-North. She produced a prolific career here at Georgia Tech as a 6-time All-American, 4-time All-ACC honoree, 3-time Academic All-American, ACC Player of the Year, ITA National Player of the Year, just to name a few of the awards. We have a limited amount of time, I'm sorry. She was a member of the 2007 NCAA National Championship team and helped lead Georgia Tech to 3 ACC championships. So, welcome, Chrissy.
Okay, so my favorite place on campus is similar to Eileen because it is very different now, but it's on the same ground. Was Court 1 of the Bill Moore Tennis Center. The bleachers were right up against the side, and it was great. I had a great home court advantage every time I played on that court.
Awesome. And what are you doing now?
Now I'm an attorney. I'm in-house, and I work for Northside Hospital. We have 5 hospitals here in the greater Atlanta area.
Great. Thanks for being here. All right, and last but not least, of course, Monique Mead. Monique is a 4-time All-American, All-ACC, and All-District honoree in the volleyball program. She was also the 2009 Rookie of the Year. During her career, she helped Georgia Tech to NCAA tournament berth and trained with the U.S. national team. So, welcome, Monique. All right.
What's the first question? Favorite place on campus?
Yes, when you were a student.
When I was a student, for sure, it's the same thing. I love the locker room. I loved O'Keefe. I love that they're still playing in O'Keefe, although they have a giant jumbotron that's amazing. But I loved the locker room, took a lot of naps in the locker room. Sometimes I'd stay there before 6 a.m. workouts. So that was definitely my favorite place on campus.
Awesome. And what are you doing now?
I'm also an attorney. I do trademarks at Kilpatrick Townsend right downtown.
Okay, great. All right, well, welcome. Okay, so now for the good part, we're going to kick off the questions. And I'm going to start with Eileen because she's got a home court advantage here. Lots of friendly faces in the crowd. So, Eileen, you have held almost every position at Georgia Tech, from student athlete to student assistant to assistant coach, now the head coach of the softball team, spanning a 14 career at Georgia Tech. How have you seen Title IX impact the game of softball?
Senior and upperclassmen would pick you up to get to the field, and if they didn't, then you ran from McCamish to 14th Street, which did happen a couple times because you can't be late. But we started with that field, and just now seeing the beautiful facility, Shirley Clements Meeborn Field, which is named after one of the first 2 female graduates from the Institute, is one of the things that I'm most proud of in progress, is just seeing, a venue that was off campus that I think the athletic department paid $1 in rent a year to use, now be a $1 million facility on campus and have, state-of-the-art scoreboard, locker rooms, clubhouse, all that stuff. So just to see that evolution and know that there were women that came before us who helped pave the way for that opportunity. And, they don't get the opportunity maybe to play on that field today, but they're so proud when they show up to the venue and see what our players do today on that field. And it's kind of like that pay it forward kind of mentality. And everybody wishes, like you said, that you have that cool locker room while you're there, right? But all 3 of us are talking about how much fun we had in our locker room because those people that we were with are what kind of tied us together and that time that we spent together. But Title IX, it literally just pushed the program forward. Last year's, I think, was the first year that we sold tickets in the history of the program. And so it's just consistently pushing for more and more opportunities for our female sports, and having an administration that backs that has absolutely allowed us to elevate our program to what it is today.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really cool to see how much things have improved, the progress that we've seen on campus. It's really fun to come back and see all of it. So speaking of people who paved the way, I'm going to do the next question here to Bernadette. You have been the first in many categories. Full-time head coach at Georgia Tech, first senior woman administrator at Georgia Tech. Can you tell us a little bit about the experiences you had navigating these unprecedented roles?
Yeah, the opportunity. Thank you. Yeah, the opportunities, it's amazing. When Title IX was passed, it really opened up so many doors. And just to put it in perspective, I'm going to say hello to a new friend that I just met tonight. Emma, say hello to everyone. I was only a few years older than Emma when Title IX was passed. And to see the light years of what has happened, and I know people think 50 years is a long time, but in a way 50 years is not that long of a time. I was fortunate, I was hired to come to Georgia Tech. As a matter of fact, byproduct of Title IX, there was a Title IX lawsuit filed against Georgia Tech, and the athletic director at the time, Dr. Homer Rice, the president, Dr. Joe Pettis, had to basically upgrade and elevate all of the women's programs. The Georgia Tech had only been in the ACC a few years, and so I had the opportunity to get hired. And within 3 years, we were able to hire 6 other full-time women's coaches, elevate teams to varsity, and really, literally knock down doors and walls to create opportunities and create facilities that are far and away not like what you have here today. But at the time, in the late 70s and early 80s, we thought that it was just the best facilities in the world. So
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for being the first in many ways. Someone has to be, and we're all grateful, and every female athlete in this room today, is part of that. So another first, we're going to go to the next one here. Diana, you were the first female letter winner here at Georgia Tech, and you were a diver on the men's swim and diving team. We need to hear about how that happened. What tell us the story.
Yeah, okay. So the Title IX passed in June '72, and in September '72, I was 18, just started on Georgia Tech, wondering what I was going to do besides studies. My brother, who happened to be captain of the swim team, said, why don't you talk to Coach Herb McCauley and just see what he has to say. So, sure, I did that. And Herb, he was great. He didn't bat an eye. He didn't say anything like, you'll be the first woman on the swim team or the only one.
Yeah.
It was just show up for practice tomorrow. so I did. And I met a good friend of mine, Jack. He's right here. And these great friends. Yeah. And I met my awesome coach, Coach Carlos DeCubas. He had coached Olympian gold medal winner Jenny Chandler. He was just excellent coach. Fortunately for me, so I improved through the 4 years, and I lettered all 4 years that I was on campus here. And yes, I dove against guys practically all the time, maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions. And I thought I might share just kind of a funny story. When this guy was upset, I won the competition. and he said, it's just not fair that I have to dive against a girl. It just seems so funny to hear that.
Absolutely, yeah. That's great.
But then in reality, I was thinking about this, and it's going, but how fair has it been all these years that women didn't have the opportunity even to dive or to participate in the sport that they wanted to? So, it's just astounding. It was, but we go on.
Yes.
So,
Well,
yes.
and what a great story. And, we're all very grateful to you as well for being the first. And it sounds like you did a phenomenal job at it. So thank you. Awesome. Well, moving on, we're going to move on to Chrissy over there. All right. It is not a cliche when someone says your collegiate career was one for the record books. All right, you were part of the 2007 Women's National Championship team, helped win 3 ACC championships, 6-time All-American, 4-time All-ACC, just to name a few. All right, but you were also a 3-time academic All-American. All right, so where does that mentality come from, and how do you maintain that?
So I'd say that some of it is innate. I've always been a bit of a perfectionist, which for most things in life is a good thing, not for everything. And then, so part of it is innate, but then part of it was, I got pushed to be the best that I could. I mean, my dad, I think he thought I could be the president of the United States. I mean, I believe that. I think he still thinks I can be the president of the United States. He's just always. I'm the firstborn. I think they always wanted a boy. Well, I became, that and more. I think to them, and he went to all my sports with me, but also they always pushed me to put academics first because. Anything can happen. You can get injured at any age. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. And so, that was always reinforced in me. So I stayed in public school, even when I was traveling and playing tennis and, doing basically like homeschooling myself, when I missed a lot of time for school with athletics. And so, they just pushed me and they sacrificed a lot so that I could, play the tournaments that I needed to play. So then I just always had that self-drive to make the most that I could of myself. So, it's just a combination, but I think a lot of it has to do with, making sure you have the right coaches that can tap into your personality and into your potential and motivating you in the right way.
Absolutely, yeah. We all know here at Georgia Tech, I'm going to move this over so I can see you guys. I know everybody here who knows that, academics at Georgia Tech are no joke, so to be, and the athletic endeavors take up, a lot of time and energy, and so being, excelling at a high level in both it's a lot of work, so it's wonderful. Thank you. All right, Monique, you're to the next one. All right. We have women on this panel representing multiple generations of female athletes. All right, you're our most recent graduate on the panel. All right, you were 4-time All-ACC team honoree, 4-time All-American while at Georgia Tech, and you came from an athletic family with your dad and sister both competing. So how are you supported growing up as a young girl in your pursuit of sports?
I was always in a very sports-heavy family. My dad was actually an above-the-knee amputee, and he competed in the Paralympics. So he won a silver medal, a gold medal, broke a world record with one leg. He lost his leg at 9 years old. So, the mantra in our house was just, there's no excuse, There's always a way. If you want it, there's just a way to make it happen. And then my older sister, she's always pushed me. I remember back in middle school having to run this 2-mile race, and by the last 100 meters, I was dying. And she ran out onto the track and helped push me across the finish line. And it's so cute now that I think about it. I think back at the time I was mortified. And then just recently in Labor Day weekend, we actually ran a 5K. And the last mile, all I hear is, come on, Monique, just 0.75 left, just 3/4 of a mile. The last whole mile, she's just always been encouraging and has always pushed me. And she's the reason I really played volleyball. So it's always nice to have, my dad was always great and always pushed me, but to have someone, really close in age that is also pushing you, being a freshman on the varsity team when she's a senior, comes with a lot of pressure. And I think she's always just been a really great motivator for me.
Awesome. That's great to have role models and mentors, and I love the fact that, when you're there's no excuse, try to have someone that's hey, there's no excuse. So we all need those people in our lives, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to move on to Bernadette again. Bernadette, I'm sorry. All right. Title IX was not even a decade old when you arrived at Georgia Tech. All right, so yet you coached some legendary Yellow Jackets, including a pair of freshman All-Americans in 1985. What was it like recruiting during that period?
Recruiting was crazy. There weren't kind of NCAA rules like all the athletes in the room right now are dealing with and the coaches. It was a little bit of the wild, wild west at the point when Title IX really came into play. It was the opportunity to actually recruit female student athletes. When I actually took the job, there was only 19% of the undergraduate population at Georgia Tech were females. And so building the entire women's athletics program was a Herculean task in itself. And you had to really you had to recruit hard. You had to have a very polished book. I can tell you, when I got my office down in Alexander Memorial Coliseum, I was hired the same week as Bobby Crimmins. As many of you probably know Bobby Crimmins. And our offices were right next to each other. And so my very first day on the job, I was like, gosh, I can't wait to see the locker room. And his administrative assistant said, I started to go through the door. She goes, you can't go through that door. I said, what do you mean? She said, that's the door to the men's locker room. I said, where's the women's locker room? She goes, you have to walk outside the building and go in the outside door to get to the back women's locker room. And I said, no, that's not true. Okay, so a couple weeks passed. They're going to put a door in. They're going to put a door in. They're going to put a door in. So I'm recruiting one of our best recruits ever. The mom, the dad, the recruit is with me. They're in my little tiny office, and I tell them we're going to go look at the locker room. But it's pouring rain outside, and I am like, I'm not taking them outside. I'm just going to act like this is a door to the women's locker room. So I go walking through the door to the men's locker room, and you had to go through the shower area first. And this is the honest to heaven's truth. We were in the middle of our walk, and the water goes on, the shower goes on, and what did the four of us do? But we all do this. And there was the men's assistant coaches who just finished working out, were taking a shower. George Felton. So anyway, had to bust through on that one. So of course, I'm trying to tell the recruit something, tell the mom and dad something. I'm making up any story under the book that this was really the women's locker room that the men are showering in. And the next day I just went home. I said, I'm sure I'm fired. All right? There was no guaranteed contracts or anything. I said, I'm sure I'm fired. I came back into work because the coaches threw a fit. Of course, they were taking a shower. And so the next morning, I come into the office about 8 o'clock, and I hear all this noise. And they are jackhammering, literally the brick walls to make an entrance to the women's locker room. So I thought, I guess you really do have to bust through some ceilings and walls,
That is awesome. That is a great story. And aren't we grateful that we don't have to walk through the men's locker room anymore to get to the women's locker room? Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. That was a good one. Whew. All right. Chrissy, you got to follow that. All right, Chrissy, you grew up in a small town outside of Detroit playing tennis from a young age. Can you talk about how you got involved in the sport and why you chose Georgia Tech?
Yeah, so this question's really fitting because my mom played college tennis at University of South Florida, and she was one of, the first few years where she was a beneficiary of Title IX. And so she played college tennis, and she likes to joke that I played tennis from the, day I was born, even before I was born, because she was playing when she was pregnant for me. So I don't ever remember a time where I wasn't playing tennis. So I think I was 3 or 4, or, some early age like that. So tennis in a small town was challenging because it was a town of 9,000 people. There weren't a lot of resources. My parents didn't have a lot of money. And I didn't know that, though. And they took out loans for my tournaments, which I did not know. And I'm glad they didn't tell me. Of course, it would have been a lot of pressure. But they just did anything they had to do to give me an opportunity to play and to travel. My dad drove me an hour each way to Detroit to play tennis 4 times a week. And so what that really instilled in me was I only have a few hours on the court because I was playing indoor tennis, which was also really expensive. So the minute I got on the court, I was ready to go. I was already warmed up. I was focused. I was intentional. And, I wasn't playing 6 hours a day down in an academy in Florida. But the 2 hours that I was out there, I was focused and I wasn't going to waste any time. And so I do think that, it's that quality over quantity. And so, I had that instilled in me when I was young. And so, but then also because I grew up in Michigan, the minute I started getting recruited for college tennis, I said, I am not going north of, my dad liked to call it the Mason-Dixon line. So I was not going to go to a school north of, in Kentucky or north. And so I targeted ACC schools, SEC schools, and what ended up bringing me to Tech was just the combination of athletics, academics, Atlanta as a city, but I just really bought into the values. So the coach at the time, and I was talking to the girls and the guys tennis players before this, but his name was Brian Shelton. He's a legendary coach. I was lucky to play for him, but he had a vision for the program and where it could go, and I completely bought into that vision, and that vision came true. And it's kind of weird and sounds like a fairy tale, but he told me, he sat in my living room and said, if you come, you'll step in and you might play number one, and we were one player short of beating Georgia. We're one player short of winning ACCs. And sure enough, my freshman year, we beat Georgia for the first time. We won ACCs for the first time. And of course, it wasn't just me. It was the groundwork of years and years. But it just was this, and all the girls that we ended up getting recruited that he recruited. So it was, of course, a combination of factors, and I helped contribute to it, but so did everyone else who was playing. So from small town Michigan down to Georgia Tech, I'm not gonna lie. The first time I heard Georgia Tech, I had to be, I didn't know about the school at all. And now I think, with the athletics and, and before I came, the basketball team made the finals. It started to really get on the map. But from being in a small town, it was unconventional at the time, but obviously one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah, I'll say. I think it worked out pretty well. We're glad you chose Georgia Tech.
I am too. And also, my husband played tennis here, and we have 2 kids. So there's a lot of wonderful things that have come from Georgia. I had to put that in.
Yeah. I would say it worked out in a lot of ways. That is great. That is great. Thank you for sharing. All right, Diana, back to you. All right, so when you came to Georgia Tech, it sounds like, maybe coming to play sports probably wasn't the first reason you came. It was something that, kind of happened, yeah. But, now you've, it's been 50 years since that time, and, you've seen what that did for your experience and how it's affected. Look at this room today, what that started. So what advice would you share with current student athletes or anyone looking to join a collegiate athletic program?
I think athletic, is it on? It is? Okay, good. It seems like it's a lot different from when the way the world was in 1972. But I think just in general that having the mindset of just reaching out and trying something new, different, open doors that you don't know, what's the possibility there? So, try the door, maybe, a lot of times it opens, walk through it and do your best, And I think that's just a general good philosophy to have as you go through life, whether it's trying to get on a team or trying to get a career or change your career into a new direction. Just be bold, try it, do your best. Yeah.
Awesome, great advice. Thank you. All right, back to you, Eileen. You thought we forgot about you, didn't you?
Yeah.
Between Georgia Tech, the Puerto Rican national team, Young, Harris, and Radford, your professional stops, you've been given the opportunity to educate and empower student athletes. What is your philosophy as it relates to that?
I've been so fortunate because of softball, the opportunities it's provided me, and I think the big piece for me is, and constantly talking about just leaving it better than you found it, and that's not just people, or that's not just buildings, that's not facilities, that's people, and that's the relationships you have. So the players that come into my program, I want them to leave more confident, maybe a little bit more trusting in themselves. And my hope is that once they step out into the real world and they are in maybe corporate America or whatever that job is or whatever they choose for their lives, that, you know, they can stand on their own 2 feet, but they also can, you know, keep pushing through the ceiling or jackhammering through the door to make a door, because it's not always there. And it doesn't get there by just being complacent. You have to, you know, consistently push for what you want. Whether it's, you know, equality in the workforce, whether it's, you know, opportunities for your kids or, you know, your family, whatever those might be. I want my players and I want the people who've been in my program to feel confident in the ability to do that. And, you know, they're here, and I hope that, you know, I recruit them and they come in and, you know, they might come in unconfident and unsure of themselves, but when they leave, like, that they have that experience, which college athletics provides them, right? But also, like, that journey and that evolution to become, like, a strong, independent woman. And whatever you want that to be is unique to you. And if I can do that, and I've made just that little bit of an impact, then we're gonna make a huge impact out in the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Well, we're very fortunate to have you leading that charge with your players, and you know, all of us up here, I think, can attest to the fact that our experiences in college athletics, you know, had a huge contributing factor to, you know, where we ended up, and it's, you know, a lot of great life lessons.
Absolutely. You know, like, again, like, these people who are up here, like, y'all are really impressive. Like, I'm super, like, just humbled to be up here with all of y'all, because what you guys have done, I mean, I watched Monique play. Like, she's pretty good. Like, volleyball's good now, but, like, she hit the ball pretty hard too. So, like, okay. And you got national champion right here. So it obviously, you know, what all you guys have done to pave the way for us. So fly fighter jets. So I just wanted to, while I have the chance, just say how honored I am to be up here with all of y'all.
Absolutely. I am honored as well. This is an awesome group. Very happy to be here. All right, Monique. How did your experience as Georgia Tech student athlete help define your post-graduation career path? We just heard Eileen talk about what we're trying to do here.
Right. Honestly, before coming to Tech, I never thought I would play volleyball after Georgia Tech. And my coach, Tanya Johnson, she's now at LSU coaching. But she really pushed me to, you know, really think bigger and think, you know, that was something that I could do post-college, and she got me in contact with the right people. So right after, you know, I finished my last game in December, I was talking to agents, I think, at the end of that week, and then by the 2nd of January, I graduated mid-December, and then by the 2nd of January, I was going to play in Puerto Rico. And so that was an awesome experience. I love to travel. And then after that, I actually reached out to one of our female ADs that was here at the time. I don't think she's here anymore, but I reached out and I was like, I have no job experience. I have no idea what I want to do after volleyball. I think a lot of athletes kind of go through that identity crisis. You know, we put in so much time and effort and energy into this one sport, and that's kind of our sole focus. I know we say student athletes, but, you know, it's kind of like athlete, student. Whatever you want to do. I'm just kidding. Don't be like that. But I think after graduation, it's really, like, hard to figure out what's next and what you want to do and where you want to go and kind of finding that new purpose. So I reached out and ended up getting a job at Collegiate licensing company, which got me interested in IP, and it was just kind of a snowball effect. And then my brother-in-law, he played football here. He's right there. He went to law school, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And he was like, well, you like to read, just go to law school. And I was like, what? Is that a thing? It is, right? So it just kind of really worked out. I had a lot of people that I met, you know, through Tech, after Tech, that really helped pave the way and kind of open my eyes to opportunities that I didn't even think about. It wasn't even on my spectrum. So that was really great, and having those opportunities and being able to reach out. I love being able to call my old trainer. I call the coaches. I call everybody. And so it's really nice having that community here.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great family to be a part of. And it turns out if you put that work ethic that you have put into your college athletic career and directed toward really anything, it turns out it usually goes pretty well. Working hard translates. So really happy to hear that it all worked out really well for you. All right, Bernadette, you're up again. All right, from a college athletic standpoint, you are in one of the highest positions of power there is, as a female. How do you empower female athletes, coaches, and staff from the conference standpoint?
A couple of the panelists, and I also want to say it's great to be here tonight, to be with all of you, and certainly Todd, Jolene, thank you, and to be with this impressive group of strong women, as Jolene says, badass women. I feel like I'm a little slacker with everyone else's resume right now, but I think empowering other women comes to the point of providing opportunities if you have the ability to do so. No one gets where they are at any point in their life, personal or their career or their sports life, without a lot of people helping. And I had a lot of people that helped me, not only when I was an athlete competing at the collegiate level, but when I took my very first full-time job, which was here as the head women's basketball coach. And, you know, I look at the relationships and sort of the network that you build, and you start building it immediately right now. And it's allowed me to be able to give back, and to give back to other women, other young females, that are either at our schools or have been at schools that I've been in, graduate programs, et cetera. And I think that there comes a point in time in everyone's life and career where you have to start to do that right from the beginning, and not when you're at the end of your career, but like right now when you're getting ready to graduate. And like you said, Monique, you leaned on people to figure out, you know, what's my next step? And you know, you're an accomplished attorney now, and somebody pushed you, you know, after your playing days to go to law school.
I reached out to Chrissy.
Yeah.
Before I went to law school, I reached out.
So I would say to all the student athletes in the room, male and female, don't underestimate the network that you're building amongst yourself. Don't underestimate the network that you're building with your coaches and your administrators, because it absolutely will continue to open doors for you the rest of your life. Not to mention what that Georgia Tech degree does hanging on your wall. So that'll open a few doors too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything you said, and we just want to, again, thank you for, you know, everything that you've done for female collegiate sports over the years and continue to do today.
Absolutely. I've received as much as what hopefully I've tried to just give some measure back.
Absolutely. Well, we can see that. Thank you so much. Well, I have more questions, and these women are amazing, but I am going to have to cut off this part here. Afterward, we didn't have the opportunity to have audience members ask questions, but we will all be here after we wrap up, and if anybody would like to come down and ask questions, you know, we would all love to talk to you if you have anything. And I just want to, it's been awesome being up here with you guys, getting to know you.